don't, because you're coming out of recess.
All day, like in meetings, I'm trying to like make eye contact so I write more than like, you know what I mean? Because otherwise I have to keep another screen on for.
I write more too. I feel like I retain
Right.
typing, but I do some notes on typing. And
People start talking about things that are just
Let's say she doesn't like using the gavel.
because I just don't want people going down the rabbit hole and someone who then watches this later. Like not to hire me. I'll try. I'm not, so I can't say this every time, but if it gets negative, and I'll be really careful.
We're gonna be
negative comments.
Notability,
Yeah.
I'm sure fanfare.
Yeah, I wish I could do it.
I would use AI for everything, I just can't record a lot of work conversations.
It's so many topics, it's so hard. And I already just had it.
Pictures of Margaret at
Oh, we can start.
Are we all ready? Are you ready?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. The Prior Lake Savage Area Schools Board of Education will now reconvene the special meeting recessed on June 1st, last night. All board members are present, and I will now turn it over to MSBA's Barb Dorn to walk us through tonight's deliberation process.
Thank you, Chair Bullion. Welcome back, everyone, to the special meeting regarding the selection of the next person to lead the district here in Prior Lake Savage Area Schools. I just have a couple of things to update you on and some guidelines to provide before I turn it back over to the board to deliberate. So just a couple of food for thought. So I have good news and bad news. The good news is you as a board have options. The bad news is you as a board have options. No matter what you do, you will disappoint people. You're tasked with a very important decision. You have run a very condensed search. You've seen a lot of material on people, but you have not seen as much as you would have had you done a full search over 3 or 4 months. But you have done a very good job, so I want to acknowledge that and thank you. And just prepare you that no matter what you do, there's no perfect solution. There will be people disappoint you, but that's part of being a board member. You're elected to this role, and that's sometimes one of the challenges, is you can't do everything everyone might want you to do. So that's the good news and bad news. I also want to acknowledge that from the beginning, this search has been very complex. Even at the planning meeting, when we were talking about your options to advertise this position, there was a creative solution to offer 3 different options and see who expressed interest in which option. So you did that. You looked at the applications, you saw where people landed, you selected people to interview, some were interested in this or that or the other, but that sense of moving parts on the position itself is complex. So that's just one piece. In addition to that, I did talk to all 4 finalists today. I wanted to call and thank them for coming last night. Congratulate them on doing a very good job. I think you have 4 very solid people to consider for this position. And I asked them some questions, and I'm going to just add to the layers you're going to need to consider, and I'm not going to speak for the candidates. So the conversations I had with them were confidential, but I needed to know some things just to ensure the board's not making some uninformed decisions. And so a couple of the things that I talked to them about was reiterating their interest in either a 3-year and a 3-year only, or a 1-year with the possibility to audition during that year for the long-term contract, or a 3-year coming out of that right away, out of the gate. And so things have shifted a little bit for your applicants, and I think we can discuss this further down the road, but you do have 1 person from the beginning who was clear. It was a 3-year. Risk tolerance is very common when people are in sitting jobs where they're very, very successful, very happy. To take a 1-year gig is a risk. It's also a risk for the district if you have a 3-year and it's not going great. However, it's also a win for the district if you have a 3-year and it is going great. You found someone right out the door. So there's just those pieces, and I did talk to all 4 of them about that. I also talked to them about the possibility of a split vote, and I did that because we see it more and more commonly that a full board of 7 does not arrive at a 7-0 decision as much as it used to be common. It is more common to see split votes. I can tell you that all 4 candidates would appreciate a unanimous decision simply because of the gift it is to them and the gift it is to the community. All of them would accept an opportunity to interview at this point if it were a unanimous vote. Not everyone would accept an invitation to interview if it was a split vote. In particular, if it's 4-3, there will be some folks that are not going to accept your invitation to negotiate a contract. 4-3 is too close for them, and it makes them too uncomfortable to take that big of a leap on a 4-3 split board. So keep that in mind as well. I also talked with all of them about the possibility of what we discussed earlier in the training materials about a Plan A, Plan B vote. And I have the motions here that you can use tonight if you'd like to make them. But sometimes when you're in a really tight turnaround time, and you are, because it is June 2nd, sometimes to save time, if you have a strong top two, if you don't have a strong top two, don't even consider this option. But if you have a strong top two, you could make a motion called Plan A, Plan B, which is to enter negotiations with this person. If those fall through, you pivot and begin negotiations with the other person. That saves you 3 days, because if your negotiations fall through with someone, you have to call a special meeting with 3 days' notice simply to come in, make a motion to enter negotiations with the second person. So it is a time saver for you and the applicants. They are all aware that that's a possibility, and they are all open to that. No one would take great offense at being Plan B, because they understand timing is of the essence right now for everybody, themselves and for you. So I had conversations with all of them about those things, which I thought was helpful, but it does remind me that this is a little bit out of the norm. You do have a lot going on, and 4 very qualified, very different people that are looking for different things and different opportunities. So a couple of things as far as moving forward with deliberations. You could do one of 2 approaches. You could decide first how you feel about offering a 3-year contract out of the gate versus a 1-year interim contract with the opportunity to apply for the position or to be considered. You're not interviewing anyone who only wanted 1 year, one and done. It's those 2 options. You could make that decision first and then talk about the candidates, or you could start with talking about the candidates. And with that, I would run through the EMD results very quickly with you, turn it back over to the chair to facilitate a conversation on strengths, because I want strengths for all 4 of those from each of you, just each of you offering one. And then based upon the candidates and the direction you're leaning about who you'd like to work in this district, then you make a decision potentially around a 3-year or a 1 year. So you could approach it from either of those ways. That's entirely up to you. And then finally, to minimize risk to the district, I want to remind you this is being recorded. And so it will be viewed, and everything that you say potentially will be heard, and you're dealing with people's careers here. So I'm going to ask the board to focus on positives of these candidates and to advocate for someone and why you may feel they're the best. I would prefer you not disparage anyone or speak negatively of their candidacy, again, because this is being recorded and available. And I really want you to be careful what you might say, because if you say something that is not based on fact and it does affect their career, sometimes candidates have a case against the district. So we want to be very careful about what you share, especially if it's hearsay or rumors or a criticism that might not be founded. So please be careful just to keep the district protected. That is all I have. So I think what I'd like to do next is turn it back over to the chair and see which direction you'd like to go, or answer any questions that there might be.
Anybody have any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Goodness. In the case of, just to make sure, 2 questions. Okay, just to make sure I'm understanding. So all 4 candidates wish for a unanimous vote if possible,
Yes.
but all 4 candidates are open to being a potential second choice if we go that route.
Yes.
Okay. My second question, if we go the Plan A, Plan B route, would both people be called this evening?
I will call all 4 people tonight and let them know where things stand as to whether they are still in the running, if it's a Plan A, Plan B, or if they are not in the running because the board moved forward in a different direction. I'll be calling all 4 of them.
Great, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so I think that we can discuss whether we want to talk about the candidates first, or if we want to talk about 1 year or a 3-year option first. If anyone has any suggestion on which which way to start. I'm open to hearing any feedback. Dr.
I'm happy to
Atkinson?
start. Yeah, I mean, my desire this whole time is to find the best candidate. And so I would like to talk about the candidates first and then determine what their needs are regarding their contract second.
Director Johnson?
I think we should determine if we were going to do a 3-year or a 1-year first.
Dr. Mason?
I would also like to start with the candidates first and finding the best candidate, because the 1 or 3 year may not apply.
Okay. Dr. Olsted?
I would like to lean toward discussing 1 or 3 first.
Dr. France?
I would like to discuss the 1 or 3 year first.
Dr. Smith?
I would say let's discuss the 1 or 3 first.
Well, given that we have 4 board members that have a desire to discuss the term first, I think we go with that. So we can start our deliberations with where we stand as far as a 1 or a 3-year contract. And again, you know, we will have options. I mean, as we start discussing the candidates, who rises to the top, I mean, that might come into play. But when we're looking at a term preference, 1 or 3 year, I think we'll maybe just go around the table again and just see where we're leaning, and then we'll have that established, and then we will go into discussing the candidates. This time, can I start with you, Director Smith?
Sure. You know, again, given the timeline, given the significance of this role, I strongly believe that we should be looking at a 1-year term. All of them are qualified, but you know, right now all we have is an interview, and interviews are great, they're fine. But being an HR professional, they're the worst thing to gauge whether or not somebody is a fit for the job. But it's the only tool we have. So with that, I would say 1 year, just to, again, give that superintendent a chance to grow into the role, give our community a chance to give feedback on that position and that person, our staff, teachers, and just get a good sense of whether or not we've got the right fit. So I would say 1 year.
Very good. Director France?
Let me just say that having a thorough process that engages staff, community, parents, and particularly our educators, needs to happen for transparency. We need to make sure that this is a collaborative process, and the expedited process, I think, has taken away from that. Therefore, I would like to go for a 1 year or an interim, however you want to do it, and then engage in a full search and engage the community in determining our needs and wants and how things are going, starting at the first of the year. So we have the largest pool of candidates, and if it is determined that the one that we choose or not choose, because I want to make sure that we aren't choosing based on what's available, but based on what we actually need and understanding the consequences of that. Because sometimes a hire that doesn't work out for us is probably we'd be better off, appointing from within and not hiring at all. And that is a common situation in these types of environments where we're going out late and we got a pool, but we probably could have gotten even more of a pool had we started earlier. So I want to keep that in mind, and I want to give the community a chance to weigh in. So definitely a 1 year.
Rolstead?
Yes, I would also advocate for a 1-year interim position for a lot of the reasons already stated, but I think we have a very busy year ahead and a lot of focused work for this person to potentially lead. on with staff, with families, with the community. And so there's never a normal year by any means, but I think this upcoming year, there's a lot to do in a lot of areas of extreme focus. And so I have that in mind as well. And very similar to, kind of what has already been said with the extreme timeline. Normally this process would be months long, and we would have community feedback and staff feedback and student feedback and all of these things, and potentially multiple rounds of interviews so we can get to know the candidates themselves even a little better. And so I think because of this extreme timeline, I too would like that in this next kind of go around. We did get some immediate feedback, which I appreciate, for the people who called or wrote, or depending on what their feedback was. It's very appreciated and a very quick turnaround, basically overnight. And so that is appreciated on all levels. So I would go for a 1 with the extreme amount of things that we need to accomplish in this next year, and looking at it with that lens. So I would go for a 1 year. Thank you.
Yep. Director Mason.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's unfortunate we have like a really tight timeline and it, we had to move fast. It's not ideal. I think it would have been great to engage our community more. But I think one strong theme by all 4 candidates last night, which I really appreciated, was just thinking with the mindset of what's best for our students. And with that, like, in the front of my mind, and, Barb, I think back to when you described a 1-year interim role, you talked about it being a placeholder and somebody that's here with no new initiatives. And so for me, with the students in mind, first and foremost, I want a leader, and I think, we did have a strong pool of candidates. I think that our students deserve somebody here with experience, a leader here, that's ready to step in and really observe and find opportunities and run with it and take on the challenge. I think a year without progress for a student is a long time. It's detrimental to their education. And so that's where, I struggle with the year. I also, so that first and foremost for me, but also I think that having someone in here for a year, an interim, it's going to be really hard to evaluate them after just 5 months when we have to start this process again to open a search. Like, that's not enough time to evaluate somebody. I'm not sure if a 2-year is an option. I would even advocate for a 2-year because I think that gives us a little more time to let somebody get settled and really be able to evaluate them. So that might be something to talk about, but, and I think the third thing that weighs heavy on me is just, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to get strong support for a levy with an interim person in place, where we don't have a leader that we know is going to be here for a long period of time. And just building that confidence and that trust with our community, which was a huge piece of feedback in the surveys that we took. So, I mean, I'm open to a 3-year or even a 2-year if that's possible. I just really think that a year is not right now the best path for us.
I'm hearing you say 3-year.
Yeah, I mean, is a 2-year an option? Like, we talked about that at one point, but.
Yes, it's an option. It would just be up to the candidate as to whether they would consider that or not. And would that be an interim position for 2 years, or would you call it superintendent for 2 years?
I mean, in my opinion too, like, and I guess one of the questions I maybe have is, do we have to call it an interim if it's a 1-year contract? Like, I think that title, even for some of these people that are established superintendents, is probably a bit of a risk, right?
Yes, you can call it a superintendent. I know very few superintendents that would take a contract for 1 year. if they're already especially in a 3-year contract. However, the interim title, I think, is intended to allow, if it were an internal candidate, to maintain their continuing contract rights within the district. So if you had an internal person interested in an interim with a chance to audition, then I would say please do call it interim so that they can return to their job if for some reason it's not going the way that they or you had hoped. So yes, I think you could talk about titles all you want. Talk to your HR team, what they might recommend. Traditionally, though, a 1-year position is called an interim, but that's traditionally. I don't know that there's any rules about it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, you know, the candidates and sort of the risk level that they're willing to take, so I respect that from a career standpoint.
Director Johnson?
I think going the 1 years is not the way that we should go. 2 years, if that's a thing, as Director Mason said, sure, but I would prefer a 3-year. All of our candidates last night talked about trust, and we want to instill trust into them, and our community deserves it. They all seemed prepared and ready to go, and with tons of experience. That's really one of the best things that I got, is that they're ready to hit the ground running and take on the challenges that we have in our district. They have, you know, even with a short timeline, have prepared and understand what's going on, and then said, what do they want from us? Our direction and what they want. And hearing that from all 4 of them shows me that they're ready to take on a 3-year responsibility.
Director Atkinson?
Yeah, thank you. I want to go back to when we started this process, and one of the things that Barb, you had mentioned, is that during our Q&A process, there was a high-level engagement. Correct me if I'm wrong, you said that on our Q&A, is that correct? During the Q&A.
Folks who were watching it or
Yeah,
submitting
yeah.
questions, yes,
Right,
there was a
right.
lot of interest in the search without question.
Yeah, and so to me, that tells me, I mean, I knew all along, I had confidence that we could do this search in a condensed timeline. I feel like MSBA did a great job of doing what we needed to do to get us some great candidates, and which is what we definitely delivered on. I know bigger districts than ours, Anoka-Hennepin just placed a candidate in a shorter time period than we did. I'm less concerned about the time frame because I think our district has done a great job of engaging stakeholders and engaging our community in the search. Yes, it would have been nice to have more time, but then there's also financial consequences to that as well. My biggest concern is that trust with our community, and I have a really hard time wrapping my head around going to our taxpayers and saying, we want you to vote on, you know, X amount of millions of dollars, but wait, we're not going to tell you who the leader of this district is, because we really don't know at this point in time. And so if we as a board don't have the confidence to put a leader in place who can come in and lead our district through some really challenging times, I think we're doing a disservice to our community and to our district. And I think it's going to have an impact, not a positive impact on, I can't even imagine how it could have a positive impact on a levy ask that we're going to ask if our community doesn't know who is going to be leading our district in the future. And I've heard some people talk about, you know, there's an election up this year, 4 seats. This is no different than when Dr. Thomas was hired. He was hired in an election year as well, and the board, I don't recall the board ever having any concerns about putting in a 1-year or a 3-year contract. And so I don't see this, we were elected, and one of our biggest jobs is to represent the community and put a leader in place, our one employee. And so I think, like I said, I think we have some great candidates who are willing to come in and be faced with the challenge. I also like the idea of a 2-year because it allows that candidate to come in and really own our district versus then coming in and sort of feeling like, it's kind of like a bandage. And I have a really hard time believing that someone could come in here, because it's really 6 months then. Because if we're starting to search in 6 months, then it's 6 months. It's not even a year. So I just think it's only fair. I would love to see, I know that other districts have put in a 2-year contract. I spoke to someone this morning about that, and so I do know it's a possibility to put in a 2-year contract. I would love, I also think the 3-year contract is, I mean, that takes the candidate out, and I'm not sure that candidate would be willing to come on board for 2 years. So that would be part of the negotiation process, so.
Thank you all for that feedback. That it leaves me, right now, we have 3 people, you know, interested in the 1-year interim, 3 people that are interested in the 3-year, or some have mentioned 2 years. I think when we talk about trust, we talk about bringing the community along in this decision process. There is valid arguments for the 1-year. There is valid arguments for the 3-year. And kind of piggybacking on what you said, Barb, we're not going to please everyone. When I think about the gratitude for the search process and for you, Barb, helping us lead this, I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful for the candidates that came and interviewed. I agree with you, Director Johnson. They were all willing to hit the ground running. They all seemed very interested in the district, and so I'm grateful for that. Us making a decision on, there's some of the candidates are not willing to do the 1-year. And so I really do think that we need to, when I'm asking the team about 1-year or 3-year, and I have yet said to say my 1 or 3-year preference, but we are completely split right now. And whether I say 1 year or 3 years, we're at a 4-3. And most of the candidates said they do not want to have a split vote on them. So, you know, this is something that we're looking at being split on where we stand as far as the terms. I think that it is important. This is a really important position in our community. It's really important to get feedback from the community, and I think that there's arguments for the trust factor, for bringing people in the process, as well as we were elected to hire a superintendent. So there's valid arguments either way. I would say that given what I know about the candidates and their desire for a longer term than 1 year, I'm open to the 3-year. I think that we need to start talking about the deliberating on the candidates and go from there. So I don't know if that's how do we start the deliberation on the candidates themselves?
I think you definitely can do that now because you know where everyone's leaning in terms of the length of the contract. I don't think you should decide it for certain right now, but you know where everyone stands, and I think that was a really good discussion. So now let's move into the conversation about the candidates. It might start to appear that 1 or 2 of them do rise to the top, and then we can talk a little bit more specifically about their expectations and their willingness to negotiate a limited contract versus up to 3 years. Because they have thoughts on that as well. But I don't want that to be the determining factor necessarily because it limits your options about which candidate you would speak to. So I think if it's okay with the board, we can just begin by talking about EMD very briefly and then the strengths of each, and then hear from anyone who's willing to share who you're leaning toward and for how long perhaps. Let's just see what the conversation produces. Does that sound all right to everybody?
Sounds great.
Okay. So I just wanted very briefly to review the results of the Exceeds, Meets, Disappoints form that you all filled out. Thank you for doing that. You all did it this morning, and you had received a copy early this afternoon. 2 copies, one which is the overall, and the other copy which is by board member name. So one of the things I always tell folks, and I mentioned this last night, this form is not going to tell you who to hire. It is just one tool in your entire toolbox. You have a lot of things at your disposal. I hope you had time last night or today to go back and look at these 4 applicants and all of their materials they submitted, reread those letters of recommendation. It is, for an abbreviated search at this time of year, I think you do have 4 outstanding people. So the good thing is the more ease someone has, the better. exceeds, the more Ds they have, not so good, disappoints. I want to put that in context, however, in that you all heard the same answer, but you heard the answers differently. Because there was a definite trend when you looked at it broken out by question. Some thought the answer exceeded, while in the exact same answer, some thought that it disappointed you. So even though your leadership profile is very solid and you agreed on that, it was a unanimous decision that that was the profile you needed, I think the things that you heard last night, you heard them differently because there was just as many polarizing thoughts on the quality of the answer as there were shoulder scores, 1-2 or 2-1. So that was interesting for me, but I have no other comments other than to say it does not appear that you have a strong 1 or 2 people and people that you are not considering, because every single one of these candidates got a lot of support from this board. So I don't know how helpful it will be because you did not emerge with a consensus based only on that form. So I think it's going to be important to deliberate what you thought of them, what their strengths were, and then what you're looking for. If we need to, we can go back to that leadership profile and talk specifically about the people and why you feel they meet those criteria perhaps the best. But at this point, I guess I just asked the board to begin listing one strength for each board member for each of the 4 finalists, unless you have questions for me on that EMD form.
Any questions, board members? So Barb, typically when we're going through this, how do we start? Like, just starting with the first interviewee, and like.
Yes,
what-
just start with
what might it look
yep,
like?
first, second, third, and fourth interviews last night, and each of you say one thing, because if you say too many, you take away all the ideas that the rest of the people have. And you can start with a different person each time, so you're always not starting with the directors on the end.
yeah.
But you have 4 people to talk about, and I'd like each of you to share one strength you noticed in their interview, or even in their candidacy, because you have seen a lot of other materials. So I would start with your first candidate, yes.
And then Barb, can I just ask, like, I'm not sure if, do you take notes of that?
Yes.
Because I'm a note taker because I don't trust my memory. So are you taking notes?
I am taking notes. It's not notes that I'm going to share with
Okay,
all of you to
so I
help you in
should still take
deliberations. 'Cause
notes.
I do want to take notes because I want to let these candidates know that you saw them as strong candidates, because there will be disappointed candidates tonight when I make phone calls.
Yeah.
And I really like to share what you noticed as a board that their strengths were. So that's the primary reason I take notes.
Okay.
So thank you for asking to allow me to clarify on that.
Yes, thank you. Okay, well, we're going to start with the first candidate, the first interview, Dr. Jim Wagner. And so we will go around. I'll ask 4 board members what their top strength was, or what they liked most about Dr. Wagner. So we will start there. And if I could be so, Director Olstad, would you be willing to start us with what you liked most about Dr. Wagner?
Sure. I think Dr. Wegner had a firm presence, not afraid to have tough conversations, from what he could tell us. And I really appreciated, this may seem a little goofy, but I really appreciated his 3 steps to an apology. We had a question about, tell us about a time that you made a mistake as a leader. He said, the 3 steps in apology is to an apology, ownership, and next steps to make it right. And I thought it seems so simple, but yet, I thought it was great for a leader to say something like that. So those were the 3 things that stuck out with me.
Okay. Director Mason, can I go to, and we're going to do top 1.
Sorry.
Overachiever. Overachiever.
I know, it's
I
hard.
knew that too, sorry.
Okay, we'll start. We'll
Hard
go
to pick one when you have a list.
Yeah, I know.
I loved one of his comments, I think, right out of the gate around just, willingness and liking to take on a challenge and taking the district to the next level. I felt like that was a quality that I was looking for in a leader.
All right, Director Johnson, would you share? We'll take 4 board members for each candidate. Is that right?
Nope, I want each
Go
board
ahead,
member to
Brian.
say something.
Each board member, thank you. Okay,
Yep.
sorry.
I love that he's very blunt. Sometimes, you know, and he knows that, his bluntness is, you know, honesty sometimes hurts, but he is also working on that, right? Which was part of that honesty part that, and the apology that goes with Director Olsted.
Director Hudson.
Sure, thank you. I loved that he continued to say throughout the evening that he does what's best for students. And that was at the top of, I mean, like, on every single section, I had that written down. I also really loved his, when he talked about community partnerships and optimizing resources, and how he gave multiple examples of how he worked within his community to expand student programs by using community partnerships. So I thought for me, there was a lot of alignment back to our strategic plan with him.
Thank you. Director Smith?
Yeah, of course. So one of the things, similar to Director Atkinson and and his understanding of the community, specifically the, you know, understanding the nature of the community and saying that, you know, there's no FFA program, like we should probably have an FFA program. But also, like when it came to like the hockey rinks versus the tennis, you know, understanding like that is what the community is looking for and wants and is popular in the community, but also making the tough decision to say, you know, I do think that this is a need and that's a want.
Director France?
I liked his bringing up of the need to expand and include CTE courses, the career and technical ed. That's something that I know that we've been working on, and due to budget constraints, we've had to cut. So that was his understanding of CTE and the need for it in his own district was good.
Now I have to pick one from mine. Well, okay, I had several. So I'm gonna be an overachiever too. So he mentioned that if staff is operating at its highest capacity, it will allow students to do the same. I loved that. I really did agree with every one of the board members, their comments, but I loved that. He mentioned humility. And I think it's very important for leaders to be humble leaders. So I liked that. And he mentioned separating emotions from logic, asking what's best for students. And so if I were to give 3, that would be my top 3 for Dr. Wagner. Okay, so we will move on to, is that what we're looking for each one?
Unless there's something else someone wants to add to make
Is there
sure it gets
anything
mentioned.
anyone else wants to
Did we
add?
miss anything?
I do, actually. I think something that's really important is when he talked about how he had worked with 2 different communities, the Henderson and LeSueur, and bringing those 2 communities together. I just felt like that there's a lot of similarities in what he's experienced in his role in there. And then also, he talked a little bit about his proficiency scores, that the improvement and how he did that, but you definitely saw it more listed within his like cover letter, and you can definitely see it online when you go onto MDE. You can see the rise and the impact he's had on student outcomes in his district.
Anyone else want to add anything else?
Can I add?
Yeah, please.
I love that he teaches his own class. He's right in there with his students, you know, he's clearly visible, not only within his community, but also within his schools.
Anyone else? Okay, hearing no more positives for Dr. Wagner, he had a lot, we will move on to the second interviewee, which was Dr. Jeff Flagg, correct? Yes, okay. And I started with you last time, Director Olson, so can I start with you, Director France?
Yeah, so with Dr. Flagg, one thing that I liked is, all the candidates talked about putting students first, but he also did a little bit of his research and actually looked at our website and complimented us on our financials, the transparency, the financials, and acknowledged the situation that we're in.
Nope, you're good. I'm just, if you guys have are you okay with an awkward silence for a second as I'm scribbling? Yeah, okay, thanks. Director Smith?
Sure, thank you. I think has a good understanding of a process and, talked about culture moving at the speed of trust, working with ERGs and leadership teams, meeting with them, and 90-day plans, and also talked about curriculum and, being adamant that he not be the one to choose it, that the teachers and the folks that are going to be implementing it and using it are the ones that are doing that research and choosing it. So, yeah, good, strong sense of process and understanding how to build culture and trust.
Director Atkinson?
Yes. Okay, so one, his experience working in a similar sized district as ours was impressive, but I was highly impressed with the data he shared with us regarding the rise in academics within his district, as well as the recent ranking of his district being ranked, I believe it was 17th in the nation for being school districts on the rise, with number 1 in reading proficiency or reading growth. That was incredibly impressive to me. I also liked his experience with Studer, because we use Studer as well, and how using that data to drive continuous improvement was really impressive. And I will do 3. I liked his mentality of looking at what do we need to stop doing. So kind of asking the question of like, why should we be doing something just because we've always done it this way? Is it the right way to do things? So those were my 3 things.
Thank you. Director Johnson?
I really liked his principles. Safety of all students, best education of students, right? Those are his foundations of his leadership, right? And the question he always asks himself, right? Does it follow policy, law, and will the board support it? I'm sure that they all do it, but him, just the way he articulated it and the way his mind frame and his thinking behind it, it really just showed with all of his answers that that's really what guides him.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also loved his 90-day entry plan. I thought that was fantastic. And focus on the academics and proven results. So those were kind of stated, but high on my list. He had a quote, I think that was, "Culture moves at the speed of trust." And I liked that also.
Director Olsted?
I think 3 of us wrote down culture moves at the speed of trust, so I think we're all going to steal that. Really like it. It was under that same question. We asked about how do you plan to balance learning about our district while taking action on our immediate needs, and he said, I want to ask 3 questions. What are you proud of? What should I know? And are there questions for me? And I really thought that was a great way to start all conversations, coming in as a new person to a district that is new to you in a new state as well. I really liked that. I wrote it down, and so.
Okay, Say that last one that you said.
Yeah, it was, what are you proud of? What should I know? And are there questions for
Oh,
me?
His questions to us, yeah.
Yes, that was,
Yeah.
yeah, I know that sounds weird, but.
No, it was good. Thank you. When we're all doing multiples, I do see how it is harder to be the last person to say what I liked. I think for me, his school improvement record was, it stood out to me. And I too, culture moves at the speed of trust. Trust is pivotal. It's something that we're consistently hearing lack of. And so how do we foster more of it? I think as leaders, we foster it by giving it and modeling behavior that is worthy of trust. So, those are the two things that I would say. His improvement record and the culture at the speed of trust. Okay, we will move, oh, does anybody have anything to add? Or Dr. Flagg? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to our third interviewee, which was, I have it right here, Dr. Nicholas Kramer. And Director Johnson, can I start with you this time? Sure.
I don't remember what section it is, but I wrote it down. He said, make a decision today that you will thank your future self for. And I think it was in the finances part. That was, we can all do that all the time.
Say it
right?
again.
It was,
Make a decision today that,
make a decision today that you will thank your future self for.
that's good for all of us.
Yeah.
Dr. Mason, we'll go the opposite direction this time.
Yeah, I mean, what stood out for me, I think, across multiple questions was just in his excellent background in curriculum. So, I think that is clearly his strength. And, his comments about using data and surveying feedback and making changes around curriculum, all of that.
Thank you. Director Olsted?
I'm gonna do two. Gotta do two. I loved, his, approach on human-centered design. Ground the solution with those we serve. Love that. It makes me think of the whole child, that, we look to serve, in everything. The whole child, human-centered design.
Which question was that?
I think he first brought it up in number 6.
6.
He referred to it a couple of
did
times
later, yeah.
later in 8. But I think 6 was when he was sharing a perspective on the importance of gathering input from the community and others. And along with that, when he was talking about, we had a question about a potential levy, what strategy would you use to successfully get a levy passed? And he talked about storytelling. And I loved that. Craft clear messaging and turn into stories and attach real faces to those stories. And so that when you meet with people where they are and tell those stories, at least they know, like, you're coming with authenticity, and telling the real life impact of this levy. So I just really loved the storytelling aspect of kind of how he approaches a lot of things. He brought that up a couple of times, and really, really liked that.
France?
First of all, I loved his basis in curriculum and his, not only in curriculum, but also teaching it at Concordia. So he's a teacher at night, and then also his background in SPED. But I was really impressed that he brought up that as a founding, principle of the online school, that the district he was in and what they did to collaborate and understand their, the overall reduction in enrollment. And then they opened up their online school, and they're the #1 online school in the state. And it's netting a $5 million profit.
Yeah.
So he recognized the attraction of open enrollment and the importance it has in keeping districts solvent, and that's why you want to, do that. So that $5 million in profit really, really hung with me quite a bit.
Thank you. Director Smith?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I thought he was, he had great enthusiasm and was really well prepared. Some of the things that he talked about was, it seemed, when it comes to the continuous improvement, I really liked the examples about the discovery time opportunities. And then when they reach middle school, it kind of shifts to exploration. And then when you're in your high school years, it's pursuit and a capstone. And so I really think that that's a good model. And also it just kind of talked maybe a little bit of his problem-solving skills, just kind of talking about reverse engineering the experience and kind of starting from that end result, and then kind of building the experience to, again, to tailor that to the students to reach that goal. So I really liked that example, so.
Dr. Atkinson?
Yes, thank you. I wrote down a couple things. I wrote down model excellence to inspire excellence, and that was where he was talking about an unpopular decision. And I loved his, like I said, I loved his enthusiasm as well, and I thought he was very well prepared for his interview. His depth of knowledge of curriculum. Loved his example about math and respecting different viewpoints of, how people see math as far as being foundational versus the other example that he gave. And then also I really liked his example of when you made a mistake as a leader, and he talked about how the changes that they made in the online program based on direct feedback from stakeholders, and how it's they went from a 55% pass rate when it first started to now over an 88% pass rate as well.
What was that? Model excellence to
Inspire
I had it on number
excellence. I wrote
4. Yeah, model excellence to inspire excellence, number
Yeah.
4.
Okay, and then I'm left. I like that he said that he won't ask what he won't do. I liked that he started out as a para in special education. Says a lot about him and how much he loves education, just given that he teaches at night. I mean, like, literally his whole life is around education, and that is really, when you can, what is it, design your life around what you love. I mean, did that. And then the last thing I'll share that I really like that he said was, it was question 5, but it's really question 3. He said, his personal approach to things, he's highly involved, trusting people, and coaching them up. I like that a lot. So that is what I have to, and I didn't write any of my own notes, but I can find them again. Okay, so that was for candidate 3, interview 3. We'll go on to, does anybody have anything to add for him? Director France?
So he did say the 4 Rs, relationship, responsiveness, rigor, and relevance, which is
Oh,
a
yeah.
good tag phrase.
What was that number?
That was on your question.
Yeah,
Five.
that was on
Yeah,
five.
I wrote all that down too. That was good.
And I'm not sure this is a compliment or just a note of just tenacity, that he did say he binge watched our board meetings for the
Did
last
say
couple
that,
months.
and I thought, is that good or bad? I'm not sure.
Exactly.
Like, how many episodes are we talking here?
Right. Okay. Anybody else? All right, we'll move on to interviewer number 4, which was Dr. Jeremy Schmidt. This time I'll start with you, Director Mason.
Yes, just my top one. I mean, again, for me, what stuck out for him is just his experience and proven leadership, and just, you know, him speaking about how he's ready for the next level. One, if I only get one.
Thank you. Thank you for being a rule follower. Director Johnson.
I love that he brought in our leadership profile. Not to say anything negative, I think he was the only one to mention it. And he knew what it was, and he referenced it always and often.
Director Atkinson.
I loved his involvement in the community. So talking about being involved in the Lions Club and the different clubs that he was involved in the parade, and loved the fact that he brings his wife to the events. And I personally just loved his sense of humor, and I just thought he was very engaging for his sense of humor.
Director Smith.
Yeah, thank you. You know, he did talk a lot about aligning and implementing curriculum and making sure that the standards, or that the curriculum is aligned to the standards, and really just kind of focusing on what is the data that needs to be moved and focused on, and then, you know, building some systems, interventions, and you know, I really liked that he talked about his, you know, one of the pieces that he cited as evidence of that was the focus on tier 1 instruction, and the data warehouse, and being able to track that on a regular basis. I really think that spoke to his focus on learning and academics, and really being able to implement systems to drive that forward.
Director France.
And number 4, he really emphasized the importance of being out and about in the community. And then also on question number 8, about a levy, he did emphasize that he acknowledges the cost of rerunning a failed bond and levy referendum. And I thought that was really insightful to be able to actually acknowledge that.
Director Olstad.
Yeah, I liked his self-deprecating humor as well. It was funny, when he first said, "I am cheap," I wrote that down, quotes, "I'm very cheap." And then later on, he came back, he's like, "Maybe I shouldn't have said that. You know, I hope my wife's not watching," type of thing. But the reason I like that is because I think it shows, you know, like, oops, I said something I probably shouldn't have, or did something I shouldn't have, and I'm gonna correct it right away. And I own it, and I appreciated the rounding back on that. It's maybe a silly example, but I appreciated that. And he talked about, you know, getting involved in the community if he would be here. And he said, "I would get in and listen." And he said, "Listening does not mean inaction." And I appreciated that, because when you are listening to people, you are acting, and, getting to know a district, and so I appreciated that as well.
I feel like we've talked about him the less because I feel like, or the least, because we all have kind of stuck to one. But he had many things that I highlighted. So I agree with everything that each of you have said. And following along in your lead of kind of sticking to a main point. The proven leadership, but I'll tie that in with his experience with referendum/levy passed. He talked about it was the first thing he had to do. I feel like in both Lester Prairie and Becker, if my notes are correct, he said both places it was the first thing he had to do. And so that stood out to me. And in talking about that, he said, over-communicate early and often, clear, not confusing. And so, given the fact that this is the state of what we are looking at this is the most important thing this calendar year, fiscal, through December, right now. It's what's so important for us. That stood out to me the most. So, Barb, does anybody have anything else they want to add for candidate 4?
Can I add one more thing?
Please.
He mentioned that he hasn't had to do budget cuts before. Well, at least in Becker, until this year. The way that he did it, and he did not have to, he didn't have to let go any teachers because he was just an out-of-the-box thinker. And I think I wrote that down correctly because of retirements and moving people around and just setting people the right, based on their licensure correctly. And Barb, please correct me if I got any of that wrong, if you remember. That was.
Yeah, I remember
that
him
really
talking about that too.
stuck out to me. Just being out of the box, I think, is a great thing.
I would agree with that. He said he used natural attrition and then just never replaced the positions.
Yeah.
He waited, he didn't have to do budget cuts because he waited till retirements happened and just never replaced the positions. So he counted that as a successful budget cut.
Yeah, what I wrote down was made 800,000 in cuts without affecting staffing or class size. So,
One thing I would add too is I felt like he was maybe our only candidate that commented about focus with legislation and grants. And so that experience I think is very valuable also.
yes.
There were a couple other quotes around, his mistakes and learning from them and communicating, learning, rebuilding trust, as well as like process for decision making I liked also, but the legislation and the grant and some of that experience kind of shine through with those comments for me.
Director Atkinson?
Guys, most everything was stated, except the one thing I think I also like to add is I really loved his approach to doing budgeting and how he had a very collaborative approach about how he brought data to the board and then would come back with different recommendations were brought forward to provide the board with as much information as possible to be able to make decisions. So I really loved his collaborative approach of working with the board. Definitely got that from him.
Anybody else? Okay, well, Barb, we have even more than one per board member.
That's okay.
So I think we're in alignment that there was many positives for the candidates that we got to interview yesterday, so.
This is always my favorite part of deliberations because it's clear that you all recognized you have very strong people in this pool. And I really appreciate that because they're different from one another, their backgrounds and experiences are different, and yet the things that you're saying about them, it's just clear that they have a lot of strength, and I appreciate you pointing that out. That's helpful to have on the record as well. So I'm going to pass around the sample motions just to let you have this. I'm not saying that you need to do this yet, but I want to have the sample motion. You've seen this before from our interview training. And I just want to take one moment to explain that and then recap what I think you could do next in your deliberations. So I crossed off the first one because that was the one you had to make the night that it was private data, candidate A, B, C, et cetera. So it's the second and third motions that you could use this evening. The second one is if there is one person you want to immediately begin negotiations with, you can certainly use that. Obviously, names are public now, so you'll use names, not alphabet identifiers. The second option is that Plan A, Plan B. And I just want you to have that and have it available to you because, again, I'd only suggest using that if you have two very strong candidates and this board is comfortable with entering negotiations with either one of them. And you're tight on time because sometimes waiting 3 days to call a special meeting just to make a simple motion bogs you down. And so it is June. So if you have two strong candidates that the board could support, I'd encourage you to think about that, but it's certainly not required. Also note that the motions both are contingent upon a successful background check with results acceptable to the school board and contingent on successful negotiations. Because you'll choose someone tonight, or two someones, and you'll begin with someone, and who knows what the negotiations are going to reveal, because there's all kinds of stuff involved in the contract negotiations part. So it's never a done deal, just because you name someone that you prefer, or two people you prefer. You still need to get through those two hurdles before you have a superintendent and approve a contract at an upcoming board meeting. Okay? Any questions on the motion if you choose to use that?
I don't think that I have questions on the motion, but what I do have, well, maybe I'm jumping ahead if the question that I have is jumping ahead of you. So I should maybe, if you were going to, does anybody have a question on the motions? Okay, were you gonna, what was your?
The only other thing I would say is you had this two-sided sheet. Yesterday, it was how the interviews were going to unfold, and you did a really nice job with that. Again, those ran very smoothly from beginning to end, all 4 interviews. The backside of that is board deliberations. If you're using this as a guide, at this point, the next step would be to individually share whom you're leaning toward naming the lone finalist. Do not rank them. I really don't want you to say, this is my first choice, this is my second choice, this is my third choice. If there's one that you feel really truly meets the needs of the district the best, I'd just like you to share that one person. You could share 2 if you're sort of struggling between 2. See if a consensus starts to build among a majority of the board. Continue discussions as needed. Try to keep the comments positive again, and if we need to, we'll go back to the leadership profile. Sometimes this goes really quickly, and sometimes this takes a long time. So I'm going to be here available if you need help. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to the board. And what question did you have, Chair Bullion?
No, this answers it.
Okay.
Thank you. So we are going to, does everybody have this piece of paper that says board deliberations? Okay. So we're gonna, okay, we're gonna go with that. We're gonna, the first bullet, individually share whom you are leaning toward, naming the lone finalist. Barb mentioned if there's 2 that you're leaning toward, not by rank, but we're going to start with that. And so I think we'll just continue to do how we've been doing things. I'll go around the table, and I'll just go director by director. If anyone wants to start, and we'll make a circle, please raise your hand. Otherwise, if I could just pick a side. Director Atkinson, who you're leaning toward, one, or if there's 2 that you're thinking, again, not to rank, and we will start there.
I love the idea of kind of bringing forth 2. So I'm going to talk about 2 that I really like, that I felt were really exceptional, strong candidates that I think would be a great fit for our district. I liked Dr. Jeremy Schmidt. I thought that he was a strong leader with proven, am I supposed to say why, or is just the names? Barb?
However the
Oh,
board
I'm
wants
sorry.
to proceed
Would
is
you
up
like
to
me
you.
to say
Just the
why, or do
names
you want me
or
to just say the
reasons why.
names?
Maybe we'll just right now, for
Say
this
names?
first round,
Okay.
just say names.
Okay.
We'll try to get some consensus going.
Sure, Doctor, that's what I was wondering. Okay, Dr. Jeremy Schmidt and Dr. Jim Wagner.
And that's number 4 and number 1. Okay, that helps me. Okay. Director Johnson, can I go with you next?
I am Dr. Wagner and Dr. Schmidt.
Director Mason?
Yeah, my first choice would be Dr. Schmidt, and, hoping we can go with a 3-year contract, if we're comfortable with that. If there's, I think if that decision is not strong, I would also lean towards Dr. Wagner.
Okay, Director Olsted?
I am leaning toward Dr. Kramer.
And that is number
3.
Number 3, yeah.
Director France?
I felt that all 4 candidates had accomplishments in their own experience, but I feel that we're choosing from what was available and not what is the best fit for our district, and therefore, I will go with what the board chooses as long as it's a 1-year contract.
Do you have a candidate that you'd like to?
No.
Director Smith?
I am leaning towards Dr. Kramer.
And my, who I will name as Dr. Wagner, our first interview. Also, my second, if we're gonna name 2, and I feel like a lot of us has, was also Dr. Schmidt. Okay, so given that going around, we have 4 board members leaning toward the same 2 candidates. And with understanding that none of the candidates prefer to have a split vote, what can we do next, Barb?
Boy, that's a good
Can I-
question.
Maybe I should read my paper.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Can I call a 5-minute recess?
Yes, please. Can we do that?
Yes, you can call a 5-minute recess.
Let's do
Stretch-
that.
Stretch your legs. Just be careful you're not out
That was-
talking in the hallways
It
with
was
other board
It
members.
was a
so.
suggestion from Barb and said that's always something underutilized.
Yeah, we can do that. And
So-
I actually appreciate that. I appreciate that.
So what time do you want us back?
5 minutes, 7:20.
Got it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can anybody fix glasses?
I know that was probably the shortest time we've ever sat down in these chairs, but I, are you broken? Do you need tape? Yes.
It's totally fine for tonight. They're dollar store readers, so I'm okay.
I don't have any readers.
But if anybody has readers that they wouldn't mind sharing for the rest of the night, I would take
Mary,
them.
don't you keep readers up here?
I used to, but I used them all. I've got a pair you can use, because I don't need,
Can I? I mean, I can use these. It's not
these
the
are
end of the
not
world at all.
readers. These are regular. glasses.
Ooh, you know what? I have some in the car. Mary, I have some in the car. I'm gonna go grab them. I forgot that I had them.
Got men's read without him, so I appreciate that.
I'll take one of those.
I've got wipes now for my glasses.
Chilly now tonight. Hot cold, hot cold.
Last night.
I don't know where she'll go. She doesn't want to be a teacher, so she loves special ed, so I don't think she'll be a teacher, but she does want to stay in something like that, so.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Stay strong. One.
Yeah, I told him that, oh, sorry.
I thought it was interesting.
But then you and I would go back to the phone call. What I would see is this is.
He is in the back right. Right here.
I don't know how to delete this. Somehow commented. Somehow commented. What I want to talk about. He was just looking at the next.
And then and if we have candidates that are willing to do it, then you know that we have it. So I do think.
I left this because my parents
Because I know it was more than because it was 15. It was 15. It was
10 I don't know if I should gavel. All right, we're gonna, thank you for the recess, and we're gonna start back up. Barb has an idea to run past the board, so I'm gonna turn it over to Barb.
All right, so thank you, everyone. I want to say first and foremost that with this idea, I'm building the plane while we fly it. So I want to be really careful that I'm not saying this is something that would definitely work. But I just want to recognize again the complexity of the situation you're in. I think depending upon, if this board does have a leaning toward a candidate and another candidate, you could do Plan A and Plan B. Negotiate with the first person. If it doesn't work, then go negotiate with the second person. So much of this, because of the strengths of this pool, depends on the contract itself. because you not only have, obviously, salary and benefits, right? But this is not as clear-cut as most searches, where you are definitely going to negotiate a 3-year contract with a new superintendent. That's pretty clear-cut. Sometimes you are definitely going to negotiate a 1-year contract with an interim superintendent. It's this murky middle that, when it comes to contract negotiations, will probably determine whether or not this board approves the contract with that person. If it's 1 year versus 3, if it's this much money versus that much money, if it's the title of an interim or if it's got to be superintendent. There's so many moving parts, even in this contract, that perhaps you could look at negotiating contracts with 2 people that you really could see working here and doing well, and then bringing those contracts back to the board for you to vote on. Does that make sense? Because so much hinges on what's going to be in that contract. So I don't know if that's an option you want to pursue or not, because it is very situational based upon each of these individuals who have all kinds of different thoughts, different risk tolerances, different ideas about salary, different ideas of how long they want to serve in that first contract. So that would allow you to move more quickly if you're talking to 2 people at once and just talking about contracts with them to figure out where they stand. Or you could still do an A and B and see if it flies with one, and if not, go to the second. So just a thought, and I've never seen it done that way before. Doesn't mean it wouldn't work, but certainly I'm not recommending it. It's just an option for you to consider.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Or how often do you see candidates who walk away or don't accept or change their mind, like in this part in the process?
At least once a year, out of about 30 searches.
Oh, okay. So
Sometimes
it's-
twice.
It's not super common, but,
It is not super common.
okay.
How many have you seen this year?
1.
Oh, okay, so
Odds are in her favor.
great.
Any other questions? I think too, what's standing out for me is, just the split we have. And trying to figure out how we, as a board, build consensus. We're split with the candidate selection. We're split with the term. So it is, I'm just, that's what's sticking out to me, board, is that, when we hear, and we've heard throughout the process from Barb's leadership, that oftentimes superintendents are averse to coming into a district with a split board. And so, that's what's really standing out to me right now, and open to thoughts and considerations on how we can close this gap. Barb talked about, a 7-0 or a 6-1, we're far from that right now. And so looking at that, when we go back to all the positives of the candidates that interviewed, we had many of the same viewpoints. I think we all agree that the candidates all had something to offer. So that's, there's consensus there. But when it comes down to who and for how long, we are split. And so I'm open to, how are we gonna close that gap?
Would we maybe take the majority and see if others can get there? Or talk through that? I'm just curious if it's a hard no, or if
Yeah,
it's.
Barb, tell me how boards will typically, if they are in a split type decision, how do we continue to deliberate, help, either candidates or terms rise to the top? How do we continue to do that? This is the first time I've deliberated on a superintendent.
So typically with candidates, people will advocate for the one that they really truly feel aligns best and why. So you'd be able to share why you feel you are supporting maybe your first choice or your top two.
Okay.
You could advocate for why. Whether or not that changes anyone's mind, I don't know. Typically, it doesn't. I will tell you that no matter how eloquently someone advocates for a candidate, usually someone will not change their first choice just because of that. People will change their votes to align with the majority in order to have a unanimous vote, having gone on the record around the table once that they would prefer a different candidate. But I don't think you necessarily will sway anyone by advocating for one of the candidates. As far as terms of the contract and stuff, I could see any of the candidates that you talk to, any four of these, I could see this board approving them to work here, but it's going to depend on the contract, because there's so much that depends on the contract. That's the messy part that is not typical. And so I don't know if you'd arrive at a decision until you've had a chance to talk to these folks and say, hey, what do you think of this? What do you need? They might come back and say, this is the language I want. And whoever's working with them, if it's the chair or the HR director, would say, okay, but I don't think that's going to fly, but okay. I mean, negotiations take a little time, and you may end up with some things that are clear reasons to hire or not to hire someone that you've entered negotiations with. It's just to enter negotiations. It doesn't say you're going to approve a contract. So you can advocate for people. I think the why you're interested in the people you're interested in might be helpful. I just don't want people to expect to be able to convince someone to vote their way. I think you're still going to vote your conscience, unless you can support the will of the board to bring together a 6-1 or a 7-0 vote, which would be a wonderful gift again to the candidates. But it's just deliberations or revisiting that profile. If we need to go back and talk about each step of the profile, we certainly can do that too.
Can I make a recommendation
Please.
or an idea?
Sure.
There are 4 board members who offered 2 names. So should we go another round between those 2 names and see who rises to the top? Or majority, to start there?
I like that. And Barb, if you could speak to what Director Olstad is suggesting, as well as when I'm thinking about, when I'm just looking at the board members and their choice or choices. Director France said board choice, but a 1-year contract. So that kind of that helps toward consensus, given a stipulation, though. And so how do we move with Director Olstad's suggestion along with the term idea? Because when you say it's, the candidates, in my conversation with you prior to the start of deliberation, like there was a certain candidate that was wanted a 3-year contract. And then was another candidate that was leaning toward that. But are you saying that all of the candidates are open to the ask? Because that makes a difference. Like when you say it's dependent on the contract, if they are open to the ask, or if they're not open to a 3-year, if they're not open to a 1-year, they're not open to a 1-year, that eliminates them. And that makes our choices different. So I'm just trying to figure out how to help us build this consensus.
You could certainly follow Director Olstad's suggestion, and each person names one person.
Okay.
If you have to, at this point, choose one.
Okay, let's start there.
And perhaps you could say who it is and if it's a 1-year or a 3-year. So it's almost like this person if this. Does that make sense? Or you could just right now just do names and then go around and do the same thing with names and a 3-year or a 1-year.
Okay, let's start with that.
I do think they're all open to an ask.
They're all
Potentially open to a 2-year contract, which was mentioned earlier as well. I think they think this job is a tremendous opportunity. They're all very excited about it. I think they'd all do a very good job. So it kind of goes back to when you were a little kid. It doesn't hurt to ask.
Right.
And that might be very much the case with all 4 of these individuals. So however you'd like to proceed.
Now, is your suggestion just for the 4 who had the same ones? Yeah,
I mean, that's the majority right
okay,
now.
let's do
So
that. We're gonna
choose between the 2.
Let's do
And
that.
it's not set in stone, we're just kind of getting a
trying
barometer.
trying to make movement. Okay, Director Atkinson?
That's a very tough decision, but we're elected to make tough decisions. When I look at, I know you said not to look at the EMBD, whatever score, but I do have to look at that because data drives my decisions. And when I look at that, I think Dr. Jeremy Schmidt has my vote.
Director Johnson?
I will go with Dr. Schmidt.
Director Mason?
Yes, I would go with Dr. Schmidt. Again, I go back to his experience, and I think that, you know, at the start of this, we all agreed that we wanted somebody in this role with experience. And I just, you know, given some of the decisions and the levy and things that we have on our plate, I really feel like he's the strongest candidate with that. You know, I know the length of the contract is concerning, for some, but I feel like we had a really strong pool of 12 candidates at the beginning, which was maybe a little unexpected, frankly. And so I was pleased with the pool of candidates that we got, and I feel comfortable with the situation, with the selection. Yeah.
So that leaves me, and while my, I'm not supposed to rank.
All of us.
Yeah.
We're going
That's what I
through all
thought.
of us. Thank you.
But go ahead, finish your thought.
No.
Doesn't matter.
Nope, you can go, we'll just go in order, and I'll go last.
Way to get out of it.
Okay, well, should I go? I'm gonna say number, I'm gonna finish. I almost was going to, give reasoning, and I decided not to, so I will go with number 4, Dr. Schmidt. Director Olsted?
See, I was trying to buy time.
Oh, you were trying to buy time? I understand.
It's okay. I had awkward pause too.
Gosh, it's really hard when different scenarios are going through your head, right?
Yeah.
As I know everybody here can attest. I think I would. Darn it, Jess, just say something.
You wanna phone a friend?
Can I? Oh, I hate to do that.
Let's poll the audience.
So you, Barb, you mentioned that, you know, we could say something, doesn't mean that it would sway anyone's first choice. But I feel like I need to say something. Can I say something?
Sure.
Okay. Before we were even in interviews, I'm thinking back to a conversation that you and I had. And I'm going to state something regarding Dr. Schmidt that was brought. He brought 2 communities together. Am I correct? From
Different Schmidt.
different Schmidt. Scratch that. Scratch that.
I think where I'm leaning is Dr. Schmidt, but I am a very strong proponent of a 1 year still. And I like you said, Barb, it never hurts to ask.
Curious if we asked for a 2-year director or others, really?
We'll keep going and you could.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just, yeah.
France?
Still the same.
Oh, same, sorry, yep.
1 year.
1 year. Board choice and 1 year. Thank you. Director Smith.
Director Schmidt, or Dr. Schmidt.
Doctor?
Dr. Schmidt.
Dr. Schmidt. Oh, yep. And do you, okay, so that's all of us. 1, 2, 3, that's 7 with the same answer. And there's
Answers with caveats, though.
answers with caveats for a couple. So what's our next step?
More discussion.
More discussion.
Sure.
Oh, can we say something now, or?
Chair Bullion, can,
please.
if Director Smith and Director Olsted would, how do you guys feel about a 2 year?
I'll go first. I'm adamant about a 1 year as well. I know that we've said that only gives us kind of 5 months before we have to kind of restart this process, but 5 months is more than 2 weeks, which is what we've known these candidates for. And it's, I also hear that, the community trusts us we were elected, right? We were elected to do this job. We were elected to make these decisions, and I get that, and I understand that. But at the same time, feels like in every other decision that we talk about, the needs of the community, the views of the community, the values of the community is front and center in every single conversation. And to make this decision without fully including the community and getting their viewpoint and listening to them, it feels like we're doing them a disservice. And I would strongly advise us against doing that.
Girl said.
And maybe there's some, I'm adamant too, on a 1 year, and maybe there's some compromise here where if there's something where, I know Dr. Schmidt had, he gave us an answer on what he would prefer. Say that? Oh, okay. God, just checking.
Too late.
Give me a look like, oh my God. But it never hurts to ask. So I don't know if this is a scenario where, we have an A and a B, where we have, somewhere where we go, again, never hurts to ask, because it's darn near a unanimous decision at this point. We don't have a motion or anything on the table right now. So if it's very close to unanimous decision, maybe that would factor in. Again, I don't want to speak for a candidate, of course, but something like that where, maybe that would factor in. I'm of the same mindset. I mean, this is fast. It's fast for everyone. Candidates, us, the community, our staff, and our students. And I think I can't in good conscience offer 3 years to somebody without community input. I just can't do that.
Okay, so.
More community input, because we got some.
Yes, yes, yes. And when we were first talking about terms, and we had 3 and 3, and I never really did share. I never really shared where I was at. I shared that there's points, valid points on both sides, the trust equation, but I do believe my stance is a one-year contract as well. Given the fact that this is fast and the superintendent position is a vital role. I know that there was, there's valid points, whether it's, I think I heard a point that, there wouldn't be trust in an interim to pass a levy or, I don't think that, I don't align with that. I think that an interim or a one-year superintendent, given the candidates, they all know what we're facing and they were all eager to try that. I think we have a unanimous, we have a consensus on, a unanimous consensus on Dr. Schmidt. We have 4 to 3 with a one-year contract. And this is the one candidate that from the beginning said he wants a 3. So we're talking about, Director Olseth said, well, it doesn't hurt to ask. So if we go to this last motion, this last sample motion, there is a Plan A and a Plan B. So I'm wondering if it is in the board's best interest to try to find consensus around a second selection.
Director Bullion, can I
Yeah.
just add something to this conversation
Please.
about, I guess my question is I think no matter what candidate comes in, especially between these two that we're talking about, I think they are going to, just based on the traits that they brought forward, their experience, they know the challenges we faced. Some even said they're up for the challenges. I mean, expressed that in their interview. I believe they're going to come in and give it their all and do their best that they can in this year. I don't think either one of them are here not for the long run. I think titling it an interim is where I get really caught up on it. And so I think about in my contract negotiations in my own employment, and a one-year contract just guarantees you some stability for employment, right? Versus a 2-year or a 3-year. It's basically just sort of guaranteed employment. And so I still am an advocate for the 2-year, given the fact that he's leaving a very good job where he's very happy and he's very loved by his community. I think if I could get to a 1-year, I wouldn't want to call it an interim. I just think that's disrespectful to, we had some interim candidates. They didn't even make it to the interview process. And so that's where I think it gets to either, if we're talking 1 year, then it's a 1-year contract versus an interim. That's where my head is on that.
Anybody else have?
I think also, for me, obviously, very much value the community input, but I do go back to we have a very strong strategic plan. We have a very diverse board of very different opinions. And I do look at this would we land here any different? And I do think that for us to even come to a really strong consensus on a candidate is amazing, right? And so I would really hate to lose that candidate over, a year or I think, again, I just go back to if he's our candidate, we need to invest in him like he's going to invest in us. And so I think not reciprocating that trust and that he is in a very good position. I'm not sure that, I would leave that job, right? That the risk with that, right? I understand that from his standpoint. And I think that, again, I'm really happy that we could get good consensus, and I don't know, I go back to even with a lot of community feedback, which, obviously we all value, but would we land anywhere different, or would that change our opinion? And I don't know that it maybe would, like, would that split us more? And we do have a strat plan, we have surveys, we have staff surveys, we have feedback, we have 2 post-referendum surveys, we have so much community feedback, which is amazing. And I've taken all of that into consideration. So I don't feel like I'm sitting here without community feedback. Certainly more would have been great, more time would have been great. But, I just want to acknowledge that, and so that's where I also just, I feel like we need to reciprocate that investment in a candidate.
Else? Charleston.
I think that point is really well taken, and I agree with a lot of what you just said in terms of investing in someone, and I think we can do that in the contract process and in the negotiation process. And, hoping we get to that point, obviously. I think we can invest, if you will, in a lot of different ways in this person in a 1-year situation, in a 1-year scenario. I actually, and when it comes to interim or superintendent, I think that point's taken, and I could go either way on that. Because I see your point on that. I think calling someone interim is standard. At the same time, I understand, titles mean things to people, and I completely understand that and respect that. I think I'm gonna make a motion.
Can I say something first?
Yes.
Please.
First of all, I would never agree with calling someone an interim. It diminishes their capacity. If we hire someone for a year, for that year, they are superintendent. So I don't want the title to get in the way. But the one thing that we're missing is whoever we hire, okay, and the hiring, the responsibility that we're taking on here, without taking into consideration the close to 1,500 staff that will be reporting to him, that normally gets a say in this process, normally gets to meet them, normally gets a chance to do feedback, and we normally have more than one interview, and the process is much longer, so there is a developed relationship. We're talking about developing trust with our community and having them engaged. We're talking about taking the educators that everyone last night said are stretched to the limit, and if we bring on somebody long-term that's going to put them in a more vulnerable position, it also affects our students. And so without having a fully robust and transparent process that involves all stakeholders, I think we're doing our community more of a disservice. And also, again, having been in the role of corporate boards of Fortune 100 and Fortune 50 firms, the thing is you'd rather not hire somebody if you can't make a good decision than hire the potential wrong person that's not going to last long term. So getting somebody here for a year, giving them the title as superintendent, I think is the right thing to do for our district, for our community, and for our staff and students.
I'll just kind of add to that. Yeah, the title, an interim implies that it is something temporary. It is not. It's a 1-year contract. If we decide to extend that contract, that's a possibility. So it's, for me, for my money, I agree. It's not an interim superintendent. We are hiring a superintendent. It is a 1-year contract. And I do, realized that I just lost my other thought, so that's embarrassing.
If it comes back.
If it comes back, I'll let you know, but that happens from time to time with me, so.
too. Anybody else? Johnson?
I think something that, obviously all of our candidates talked about, but what this candidate specifically, he asked for the 3-year, and, which was trust. And I understand why you all are advocating for the 1 year, and I think by extending to a simple 2-year is us extending our hand out for trust, right? We're trying to give that to him. It is not a full 3-year. And that's where we are elected to the position. We're here to make the tough choices. Understand, we get a lot of material, and now we have to make the hard choice.
I remember my thought.
Okay.
Thank you. So it's a big gamble. I mean, is all I'll say. It is, it's an incredibly risky roll of the dice. And Dr. Johnson, I hear you about trust. I absolutely do. Like, I get that. And the length of the contract, in my estimation, does not indicate the level of trust that I would have in this individual. I think, as I shared and talked about when we were just going around and sharing, what we thought were some of the positive qualities. I do think that that Dr. Schmidt has a really good sense of, building academics and building on data and identifying what those things are and focusing on them and really moving those different pieces forward. I've been pretty adamant that that trust is not earned, trust is a choice. And if that person, if it's Dr. Schmidt, if we offer him a 1-year contract, it is my goal and my job and my responsibility to help him be as successful as he can possibly be. And I hope that we're right. I do. I really hope that we are right. I hope that he is the guy. But right now, I don't know. And that's a big if. Because if it goes wrong, like I said last night in one of the interviews, we're starting to turn. We're starting to get the ship to turn. And any slight misstep, any slight miscalculation, any slight mistake can seriously derail that. And it's been brought up at this board table that mistakes have been made by board members in the past, and I don't want to be one of those board members that shares that burden. So I think for me, the difference between a 1 and a 2, it doesn't sound like a lot. It's just one number, but that's a lot of days. And like I said, I feel like it's a really big ask, and it does go both ways, right? He's in a really good spot right now, and that's great. And he would be taking a big risk if he came here on a 1-year contract, but same thing, right? Like we're also taking a big risk, making this large of a decision, this important of a decision on a 2-week timeline. So I think that's still where I am, and I totally agree with everything that you're saying. It's just I think that the trust, and it's been said that we can acknowledge that in other ways in the contract. And if we hire him, he has my trust. So.
Anyone else?
As you said, Barb, it's part of the negotiation, right? If we go to him with a one-year contract, he could very likely come back to us and say, no, thank you, I'd like a 2. I mean, this is part of the process. So I think we're spending a lot of time talking about, we don't know the what-ifs, right? He could come back and say, no, thank you, I'm not even interested. I think, having board alignment is good, that's going to go a long way. But I do think we should have a backup candidate, given the fact that we're certainly not meeting the terms of his agreement from the get-go. So can I make a motion to begin negotiations with Dr. Schmidt? I'm sorry, I'm not following the words in the paper. And then also begin negotiations with an offer with Dr. Wagner as well,
As a plan B.
as a plan B, yeah.
Well, I think we should go through the proper language here.
Oh, sorry. Oh, thank you.
No, that's fine. I don't know.
I move to extend the offer of an employment contract for the position of Prior Lake Savage Area School Superintendent to Dr. Jeremy Schmidt, contingent upon the following: that a mutually agreed upon employment contract is negotiated and a criminal background is completed with results acceptable to the board.
And then the second part.
Second.
Oh, so, okay, hold. Director
Oh,
Atkinson?
sorry, I missed
Director
the B, AB.
Did you-
Sorry.
you read this.
I sorry.
That's
Let me
okay.
withdraw my motion.
I'm gonna just, if
You
I
add
can.
to it, so that's
Oh,
okay.
I can add to it, okay. Sorry about that.
Well, this was the motion that you made was off of the sample motion.
And then
to-
add, okay, I see that.
But here, I just wanted to, if I could just slow us down for a second, because I'm considering, this is an ask, if, with that motion for Dr. Schmidt, because all of us were in consensus, if we do that motion and go and make the call to ask, to make the ask, and I'm asking you, Barb, and I'm sorry to interrupt your motion. But if we were to make a motion and there was a second, and we voted in favor to ask Dr. Schmidt for a one-year contract, giving him the, he can accept or decline, then we could come back and go into deliberating on another option.
That's why we have our plan
Well, I
B.
think that's why we have the
Yeah.
plan B, right?
But I would recommend that we amend the motion.
It wasn't seconded, by the way.
Yeah, it wasn't seconded, so we don't have to go there.
Finish,
True.
maybe let you finish
But,
the motion.
well, until we've got 4 people who want 1 year, so I would just suggest, and please feel free to just start over, but just offer a 1-year employment contract.
So this says,
It just says negotiated, so
yeah,
I don't think it needs to be stated, to be honest with you, based on the motion.
well, the consensus of the board, or the will of the board, there's four people that are wanting a 1 year. So,
So you're suggesting that there be absolutely no wiggle room in the negotiations with that candidate, correct? It's 1 year, right?
when you have 4 board members that are stating they want a 1-year contract, but we have consensus, unanimous consensus on the individual, shouldn't that be the first step, is to go and ask?
Well,
It's possible he will say, I need to think about it. I don't think you'll have an answer to come back in 5 minutes later.
Sure.
Now, if it were a 3-year contract, which is standard language in this motion, or just a contract, they're usually going to start their wheels turning, start thinking about the options, start thinking about the different things that they might negotiate that are okay or not okay. There's a lot to the negotiations. You certainly may. With the time that you've got and the candidates you've got, I'd hate to see you limit your options dramatically in case there's a creative solution between the negotiating committee or the chair and the candidate. You can do it, however, and be very clear that we're going to offer a 1-year employment contract, and you may get an answer tonight. Yes, in that case, you would. Then you would come back and you'd have potentially another motion to make. I don't know if you'd have a plan A or B, though. You'd be limited then to one more person. versus having two people to fall back on.
I'm sorry, and I felt like the motion was accurate because it said a mutually agreed upon employment contract is negotiated. So, I mean, I can restate it to say the 1 year, but
Yes, if you want to make the motion, we'll go from there.
I'm going to withdraw my motion, actually.
Okay. So, board, I don't know if we recess. I don't know if we recess. I don't know if we work to find a plan B. I mean,
I have to say, I'm very excited for the idea of a unanimous vote from this board.
yeah.
I
am too.
love that idea, and I think that sends a really good message. Again, remember, this is a starting point for negotiations.
Right.
There's a lot that could potentially occur over the next couple of days or week. There really is. So you don't know what that's going to look like yet. So I do want to thank you for the work you are putting into trying to arrive at a 7-0 vote. I think that needs to be acknowledged, because I think that would be a wonderful thing, even though it's not guaranteed. That is tremendous.
So board, we had 4 board members that had another choice that was in alignment with each other. I know that that other choice also prefers a 3-year contract. And we have 4 board members that are looking toward a 1-year contract. So in looking to find an option B, I'm open to any board member feedback.
So,
Director Smith, I heard you.
okay. So we only deploy option B if option A falls through, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. What would we say to option B being the 2-year? Is there anybody that would be? I'm just throwing out suggestions here.
I think it's a great idea.
Because if he goes for the 1 year, then we don't have to go down that route. And if,
So if I'm understanding correctly, Director Smith, option A would be the 1 year, option B would be the same person, but with a 2-year.
yep,
But isn't that just part of negotiation? Do we make that part of a motion?
Or we,
we're building it as we fly, right, Barb?
Yes.
Very true. I don't know if that's, but then again, I understand why we want to do that so that we don't waste the time and have to reconvene to like talk about it again or whatever. So I get that.
are we starting with 1 year, and if he says absolutely not, saying, okay, we are willing to stretch to a 2-year, but we are not willing to exceed? Am I hearing you correctly?
That's the idea that I would be presenting, yes, is that plan A is call him, offer a 1-year contract, see if he takes it. Plan B is, say, hey, congratulations, we've reconsidered, how about 2? So, yeah, that's what I would suggest, I don't know.
That kind of destroys the purpose of having the 1 year to begin with, to make sure that we're involving the community and all that, so I definitely would not go for that.
I have a thought. My thought would be, given the fact that 4 of us also stated another candidate, we have a board member that said board choice with 1-year contract, what if our plan A was Dr. Schmidt, the 1 year, superintendent contract, our plan B is Dr. Wagner with a 1-year contract. That is my question, that's my thought, but we did not arrive on a 7-0 for Dr. Wagner. And so I would invite the board to maybe, if we're looking at trying to come up with a Plan A and a Plan B that we can all stand in agreement with, is it possible for us to go down the line again and see if we can find consensus or unanimous consensus again, or close to it, for Dr. Wagner?
Can I add maybe a little bit to that? And with Dr. Schmidt being as Director Smith, I was about the S's, the 1 to 2, and then that'd be A. And then Plan B would be Dr. Wagner with a 1. Would that be agreeable?
I think
I
that.
know it would
think
not
that-
be a 7-0.
I think that the thing is that, you know, when I'm just stepping back, going, 30,000 or 50,000 foot view.
But we can paint the picture, hey, we had 7-0 at 1,
Yep.
and we were split at 2, right? If we paint that picture for him, right, and just kind of explain, here were the,
Where we're at.
here's where we're at, and here's why, right?
That
It just opens it up. It's his choice, right? In the end, it is contract negotiations, and as long as, in my eyes, it's just showing honesty. This is why we are going into it this way. At a 1, this is where we sit as a board, 7-0, right? At a 2, we're more split, right? And here's the reasons why.
Yeah. Okay.
In my way, I
To
see it
me,
as fair.
that is acceptable. I think the question will remain is if we can get the board to come to consensus regarding the B of another candidate, so Dr. Wagner. And I would like to, just to keep things moving, I'd like to, if we could, go down the line and see if we can't reach consensus or close to unanimous consensus. Unanimous would be great, on a second candidate, so that we have a Plan A and Plan B to make a motion with and go and start asking. So can I start with you, Director Smith? I think I started with you, Director Atkinson, last time.
So the question is,
Question is on Dr. Wagner. If you could support Dr. Wagner with a 1 year as a Plan B.
it's the night of awkward pauses.
I can skip you too, if you want me to. I can come back.
Yeah, you know what, I'm gonna take the option, let me think about it.
Okay, sounds good. And Director Franz, I'm assuming that you're staying the same?
Yes.
Director Olstad?
Nay.
Okay, Director Mason, you're,
Yes, I'm supportive. Again, I think, just going back to we wanted the experienced SI, and I think he's the next, he's a great candidate for that, and yeah.
Director Johnson?
Absolutely.
Okay, Director Atkinson?
Yeah, I think that I liked, a couple things I liked about him, but I love that he said, I like challenges, and what type of district is ours? We're nothing but a challenge. You can see it here tonight. He also successfully passed a levy, and that's something that we really need someone to come in here and spearhead, and I think what's interesting to him is that he knows the challenge of passing a levy and the risk that it takes to his career. If he doesn't pass a levy, that just, whatever candidate comes in and that levy doesn't pass, it doesn't look good to them as as a superintendent. It's very, very challenging for them. And you heard it from all the candidates, how they have learned they've learned from what it was like to not pass the levy and what they would do better, which I appreciate in every candidate. But Dr. Wagner truly, I think, understands what's needed to pass the levy and the risks that are involved regarding his career. So I also go back to our very first survey, I don't remember which one it was, where we answered the question, when we were developing the leadership profile, is a superintendent who has previous superintendent experience important to our board? And it was a 7-0 vote. And so that's why I think both of these candidates are so strong in my mind. And so, yeah, I fully support Dr. Wagner for that reasons.
Okay, I'm a yes on that, and so we'll go back to you, Director Smith, if you're ready to.
As a plan B on a 1 year, I don't know if I could. I don't think so.
Can I push for a yes or a no?
No.
Okay. Thank you. So currently, we have 7-0 on one candidate, Dr. Schmidt. We have 5-2 on another candidate, Dr. Wagner. And I think, how do we make that motion?
Can I attempt to make the
Yeah,
motion?
please do.
You could do 2 motions if you want to. So the votes would be different. Much like you didn't have a slate of candidates to interview, you had like 6 separate motions that were standalone. You could do 2 standalone motions tonight.
So, but if we're this plan A, plan B, maybe it doesn't have the motion language written.
The first motion could be the top one, right in the middle there, sorry. The second motion would just be if negotiations fall through with, and you could put the name, we authorize the chair to enter negotiations with, and you name the second person then.
Okay.
It's just 2 separate motions with 2 separate votes instead of 1.
Can we do that? Who wants to try it?
Give it a go.
I'm not sure I follow the 2 separate. Sorry, can I just add the way they're worded?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
I'm going to just read it. I move to
Amendment?
extend the offer of an employment contract for the position of Prior Lake Savage Area School Superintendent to Dr. Schmidt, contingent upon the following: that a mutually agreeable employment contract is negotiated and a criminal background check is completed with the results acceptable to the school board. In the event that the chair determines a mutual agreement employment contract is not attainable, the chair is authorized to extend the offer of an employment contract for the position of Prior Lake Savage Area School Superintendent to Dr. Wagner, contingent upon the following: that a mutually agreeable employment contract is negotiated and a criminal background check is completed with the results acceptable to the school board.
Second.
Okay, and then I will do a roll call vote on that. And I'll start with you, Director Smith.
Nay.
Director France?
Going for A and B in the motion she just read for 1 year.
For 1 year.
One motion.
Yeah, nay, yay.
Aye.
Aye, sorry.
Thank you.
Freudian slip.
Director Olstad?
Aye.
Director Mason?
Aye.
Director Johnson?
Aye.
Director Atkinson?
Aye.
And I am an aye. All in, so that passes 6-1, right?
Sure does.
Okay, Barb, do we go,
If you have 5 minutes to go step in the hall with me,
we have 5
we'll take a
minutes.
5-minute recess. Maybe 10-minute recess, because we're going to call
Let's
2
do a
people.
10-minute
Okay.
recess. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
To make the vote, because technically I'm done with this search as far as now it goes to the district to, okay, yeah, I've got some comments.
Run, Jess, run.
She's running, oh, she's running back, okay.
We were able to speak with both candidates, and they are both open to discuss contract negotiations. So with that, I'll turn it over to Barb. She had a couple comments that she wanted to say prior to us.
So if I might just say, yay! Talked to both of them, and it really is good news. This was a long and thoughtful deliberation, and they both are willing to, we'll start with Dr. Schmidt. The board will reach out tomorrow with a potential contract, and I think there's a meeting first thing in the morning to talk about the terms and just kind of see where you arrive at negotiations with him. And if those do fall through, because time is of the essence, you do have another candidate, and Jim Wagner, who is also very happy to visit with you about a contract. And they're excited, and thank you very, very much for the consideration. So kudos. I will contact the remaining two candidates as well, let them know how much we appreciated them being here with you and how much you thought of their candidacy. And I normally recommend you turn in all of your notes to HR, even tonight. And I normally say bye, but I don't feel like I can quite do that because this isn't quite the end of the search. There's just a lot up in the air. So I'm not going to just say goodbye because things are still in process. You don't have a super clear path forward because of having a plan A, plan B, and having lots of parameters around contracts. So I think what I'll do is come back to another meeting someday and wrap up the search that way, because I want to talk about some things I'd recommend you do in the transition with a one-year contract or wherever you land, and talk about goals and things like that. So I'd like to return, if it's okay, even if it's just for a 10-minute touch base with this board once you have a contract approved, or maybe the night you approve a contract, I'll be here. So I don't want to exit stage left like I normally would, because I don't feel like this search is quite concluded yet.
Barb, we have a special meeting on the books for the 15th.
Is that a Monday?
Yeah.
What time? Because I do have another meeting that night at 8 o'clock.
6 p.m.
If I could be on the early part of the agenda. Oh,
Yeah, well, just in our search timeline, June 15th was a placeholder that we've
Okay.
had.
okay. I'll try to be here on June 15th. We'll figure out agendas, because I don't want to leave any loose ends hanging. And I'm hoping by the 15th you have this wrapped up and ready to be approved by the board. But I'd still like to be here just to close it out and make sure you're comfortable with next steps moving forward. So I'm going to put the 15th on here. I'll probably have to leave here by about 7:30 to get to another meeting in the cities. But, I had a thought in my head real quick.
Sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, what do you want me to do about a press release? Typically, I do send a press release to Christy, and she would send it all over social media. I don't know if we want to shout it from the rooftops, because there's so much dependent on negotiations. So the press release might be a little more muted than normal, not a great big announcement. It might be the board decided to enter contract negotiations with Dr. Jeremy Schmidt.
Yeah, we always, and historically in other districts, just say it's pending contract negotiations. That's it.
Okay. So no
that's
quote from
typical.
candidates, no quote from the board chair, so maybe just a really simple press release at this time, and then maybe once you've approved a contract, we could send a headshot out and quotes and all that kind of wonderful stuff. So it'll be a little bit different of a press release than we might have if it were something else. Okay. I will be actually unavailable to be reached by phone or email from June 7th to the 13th. So I will be out of town with my daughter. But MSBA staff are very aware of the negotiations you're going to be undertaking. If you have questions between now and Saturday night, I'm around. Call me, text me, email me, whatever you need to do. If it's Sunday until the following Saturday, my voicemail and email will have a different person you can contact if you have questions about process or anything like that, okay? So someone from MSBA is available, but I will not be available from the 7th to the 13th.
Very good.
Okay, that's all that I have. Thank you so much.
All right.
It's been fun.
Board members?
Thank
Does
you,
anybody
Barb.
want, yeah, thank you so much, Barb.
Yeah.
Thank you for your leadership throughout all of this. And thank you, board. Does anybody want to do a motion to adjourn?
Second?
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.